Ready Player One, one of my favorite books of all time, now a movie. As an 80s born nerd-cultured entrepreneur, I can't help but ask myself, how much money is this gonna make? Well, let's go figure it out.
First person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the oasis.
Game begin.
Alright, so why create this video? Why is it important for us to figure out how much money Ready Player One is gonna make? Well, number one, I really want this movie to do well. I want Ernest Cline to have success with the movie as much as he did with the book. And number two, didn't I already tell you? I'm a nerd. This is the kind of stuff we think about. Plus, one day, I'd love to write a book turned screenplay too. Now, I've written a book before, a Wall Street Journal bestseller actually, called Will It Fly, but it's far from movie material. Nope. So I want to learn more about what works and what doesn't in case I do that one day. Plus, the business owner in me can't help but wonder about the marketing and the budgeting and the merchandising and all the stuff related to movies. So we're gonna figure it out, but...
People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do.
When 2018 rolled around, knowing Ready Player One was just a few months away, even though they were supposed to come out in December of 2017, but moved aside for The Last Jedi, which was probably a smart move, I had never been so excited for something and simultaneously scared at the same time since witnessing the birth of my children. Push, you got it, honey, you got it. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. What is that? Oh my god. Now, the reason why I'm scared of Ready Player One is because I love the book so much. I want the movie to support it, not ruin it, like what happened when this movie came out. No! Ender's Game, released in late 2013, also based on an amazing book written by Orson Scott Card that I loved, that I couldn't put down, and I read it like every person reads Ready Player One or books like Ender's Game, pretending you're actually the main character. Now, Ender's Game didn't do so well. It kind of bombed. Financially, with a budget of $110 million, it grossed a total of about $125 million worldwide, and it made Vanity's list of biggest box office flops of 2013. Lots of anticipation, did not meet the expectation, kind of like when I dated in high school, because I didn't date anybody. Ender's Game and Ready Player One do have some similarities. The books are widely read and equally loved. There's a built-in audience of millions for the films that are pretty much the same, you know, that futuristic sci-fi dystopian story craving audience. So I'm a little worried. I want Ready Player One to be successful. It's not like Ender's Game where you're just blasting buggers from outer space. There's some nostalgia there in video games, which, you know, could work in its favor. Stories like Wreck-It Ralph were really good, but then I'm like, oh wait, Pixels. Pixels was a hopeful and highly anticipated film released in 2015 starring Adam Sandler, Tyrion Lannister, and a few others. And the movie heavily relied on video game nostalgia, just like Ready Player One, like Pac-Man and Invaders and Donkey Kong. And although it grossed more than Ender's Game, well, it didn't get a very good response from, like, you know, people who go see movies. But I have high hopes. I have high hopes. First of all, I'm hopeful because there are successful books that have then transferred into the movie theaters. Like Harry Potter, obviously, but also more recently, The Martian, starring Matt Damon, written by Andy Weir. Different kind of story, still sci-fi in nature and a bit nerdy.
Let's do the math.
And that movie, with a production budget of just over $100 million, has since earned $228 million domestic and $435 million international. That's about $663 million worldwide. What? So, Ready Player One, what's it got going for itself? Well, let's talk about it. First, let's talk about marketing. Marketing is all about the promoting and selling of something, and it's more than just how many commercials you see and billboards there are on the road. It's the draw, it's the appeal, it's what you expect, it's the buzz, the word of mouth, the connection to you in some way, shape, or form that makes you go, well yeah, I want to go see that thing. For me personally, I always knew I was going to watch Ready Player One because I'm a fan of the book. And whenever you're a fan of something, you invest in that thing. And this is why when I coach and teach other business owners, I tell them to go create fans, not just worry about traffic and ads and all that stuff. Take the people that have found you and turn them into raving fans. That's how you can build a future-proof business. I'm sure for many of you, perhaps you read Ready Player One because somebody else told you how awesome it was. It's like, think about your first concert experience or your first sporting event. If you weren't a fan already of that artist or that team, likely you went because somebody else invited you or you had a ticket to go to that thing. So Ready Player One is set up for success with a built-in fan base already. But remember, it's not a guarantee. Ender's Game had that also. But Ready Player One has a few other things working in its favor. Even if you don't know what the story is about, if you've seen any of the trailers, you know that a big part of this film is nostalgia.
Help us save the Oasis.
Nostalgia is that connection to something in your past that makes you go, wow, that's familiar. I like that. I like that thing. Nostalgia is everywhere these days, on movies and on TV. Think about Stranger Things that let us relive the 80s, and now more recently, Everything Sucks on Netflix, which is about the 90s. Star Wars is coming back. Live action remakes of Disney classics. It's all coming back and it's awesome! Although some people say it's not so awesome. That there's just too much reliance on old things and that there's no new good ideas. And I get that, and I predict there's gonna be a lot of critics who call Ready Player One out just for that. But hey, that's actually why a lot of people are going to see these movies, because they get to relive a lot of their childhood on screen. If you can get past the 80s references as a gimmick and realize it is a part of the story and the treasure hunt that is the story in Ready Player One, then hopefully when you watch it, if you do, you're gonna enjoy it, and I'm hoping I get to enjoy it too. Now, another important aspect of marketing is timing. There's micro timing, like our ads showing up at the right times or in the right place, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about macro timing, meaning this movie relevant to the times that we are living in now. First of all, there's timing in the box office. And right now, there's nothing that's gonna really compete with Ready Player One at this time. This is why they moved away from December of 2017 to get away from The Last Jedi, which, like I said earlier, is a pretty good move. But even more than that, let's talk about the topic of the movie itself, relevant to where we are today. It's about a virtual reality world called the Oasis.
There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the Oasis.
Where people go to escape the decline their world is facing, and they can be anybody they want to be with the avatar that they have. Aren't we in a world now where the technology is there and is often a thing to help us escape the realities and the hardships of the world that we live in today? This movie, at this time, is relatable. VR, virtual reality, is here.
Yeah. Okay, next.
And the actual technology in the film, we're not too far off from what they do. But wait, like haptic sensors where you can put on gloves and actually like feel things that are in virtual reality? Yeah.
Oh, you can feel it walking around. You're a genius.
Big shout out to Dusty from Smarter Every Day, one of the best YouTube channels out there. You should definitely subscribe. This stuff is coming, like it's here. And that's why people are excited about this movie too. Now, the one thing about marketing that you have to understand, especially movie marketing, is that it's expensive. When you see a movie that lists its budget, usually that just counts pre-production, shooting, and post-production. Doesn't include marketing, which can go up to $100 to even $200 million of ad spend for anything from billboards to digital ads to just promotions, all those kinds of things. It's expensive. In an article I read recently on Variety, I saw that it could cost $725,000 per day or more just to be shown on the front page of YouTube. It's probably well over $1 million now, just for one day. Isn't that crazy? But here's the thing. You can have the best marketing plan in the world. You can have the most money to promote your thing. But if your product sucks, you're basically just telling more people that your product sucks. As David Ogilvy, the father of advertising, once said, great marketing only makes a bad product fail faster. And in the movie business, the product is the movie itself. So I'm crossing my fingers that we have a great product here in Ready Player One. And when it comes to movies, the product is actually created by who? The director. And who's the director of Ready Player One? Steven Spielberg, baby! Steven Spielberg, baby! Now, I know I keep knocking on Ender's Game. Now, I loved the book. I was just a little disappointed because I thought the movie could be done a little bit better, but I still felt the movie was great. The director of that movie, Gavin Hood, he did a decent job. He's known for things like X-Men Origins and a few other small projects, but, you know, that's kind of it. Now, another parallel between these two books is how involved the author was in the creation of this movie. And I got so excited before Ender's Game came out because Orson Scott Card was very involved in the movie. But check out this quote. When asked, how many scripts did you end up writing before Hollywood picked it up? He said, starting from the beginning, starting over again with a whole new concept, I did it about 6 times. So believe me, I am more sick of Ender's Game than anybody. Now going back to Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg. He's had a few hits in his past. E.T., Jaws, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, and Back to the Future. Actually, not really. Robert Zemeckis directed that movie, but Spielberg was the executive producer. And that's just a sample size of what Spielberg has done, but definitely some of my favorites. Having Spielberg on the project itself has a lot of appeal for moviegoers. And actually, I think everyone's hungry for another Spielberg thriller. It's kind of been a while since he's created a really good action thriller. But most important is the product itself, and I'm glad that Spielberg is on this project. And so was the author, Ernest Cline. Actually, he even said himself.
You know, I tell people I stopped worrying about the film adaptation 3 years ago when he signed on board. From that moment, I've just been excited.
And fun fact, Ernest Cline sold the rights to this movie before the book came out. So he knew that this was going to be a movie at some point. This should be magic waiting to happen. Although I read that Spielberg said this was a big challenge for him, dealing with this digital world and the Oasis, so it was not easy. But Spielberg thrives on challenges. He's been challenged in most of the great movies he's ever created, like Jaws, with getting a mechanical shark in the ocean and having it rust to pieces. And even Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom, which was actually the reason why we now have the PG-13 rating. And Jurassic Park, I mean, this guy's a legend, right? So it's gonna be successful. It's gonna be a successful movie, right? Well, not guaranteed. Spielberg has had some failures in the past, and Ready Player One is definitely a tall order. So here are my predictions for the movie Ready Player One. The budget that they've been talking about is $175 million, so it's up there for sure. And I would assume that the marketing behind this, because we've seen a lot of it, is probably around the $150 million mark. So we're talking $325 million total just to get the movie out there, which is kind of insane. So opening weekend, I think it's gonna do over $100 million. I would say $110 million, which is a success. It's up there. And that ranks it kind of right around where Hunger Games is. Definitely not Black Panther status, but it does have this, like I said, cult following, this nostalgia. Spielberg's behind it. I really do think it's gonna do very well. Not a huge hit or record breaking, but I think it's gonna do about $110 million opening weekend. Total domestic, I would say $325 million, and then international, I'm gonna put it up there at about $600 million just because of the appeal and the kind of topic base. Now, what about merchandise? We didn't even talk about that yet. Let me talk about it just for a moment. I would suspect that there's not that much merchandising opportunity here for Ready Player One, although it does bring back a lot of things that have merchandise already. There's licensing and things like that, but there is a lot of opportunity with movies in terms of licensing merchandise. Star Wars, since it came out in 1997, has grossed over $12 billion in merchandise. Obviously, we see Star Wars stuff everywhere. But this isn't a Star Wars, and it's definitely not a Toy Story. Toy Story just crushed merchandise. I mean, it's a movie about toys. Toy Story 3 alone grossed $10 billion in merchandise. But I mean, I could see a little bit of merchandise here and there, but nothing kind of super significant like in those other movies. All in all, I think this is a movie with limited merchandise potential, so I'm not even gonna really guess. So as you watch the movie or the trailer, you're gonna see a lot of other brands in here, other icons and other video game and movie related things, so there's likely a lot of licensing deals, money being transferred one way to another, so I'm not gonna get into super details about that, but one thing for sure is I'm gonna transfer my money to the movie theater to go watch this because I think it'll be a lot of fun. So hey, I'm glad you stuck around with me to watch this video. Something new for me. I don't do movie reviews, that's not my thing, but I am a nerd and I do love Ready Player One as a book. I'm excited to see the movie and I just want to take a guess because hey, this is something that I enjoy. I'm a nerd, I love numbers, I love video games. We'll see what happens, but just make sure you subscribe to this video if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell because I come out with a lot of content to help you use your superpowers to build a business that'll be long-lasting for your life. So make sure you stick around, subscribe. Thanks again, and in the comment section below, let me know how you think this movie's gonna do. Was my guess on or off? And of course, if you are watching this in the future, you can tell me if I got it completely wrong or maybe I hit it on the nail. We'll see, but I'd love to know if you're watching this before the movie comes out or even just as it comes out. Let me know what your guess is on how this movie is gonna do. Cheers, thanks so much, and I'll see you in there.
Doc, is this part of the tour?
What?
The blue van from the movie.
Oh my god.
Let's see if these punks can do 90.
He's gonna wreck it.
I don't know how they found us.
What?